Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 200. We made it, and this is your show as much as it's my show. Otherwise, I would have stopped doing it a long time ago. I would have stopped doing it after 100 or so episodes when Tanya decided to retire and do other things. Although, please stay tuned till the bitter end tonight. We're only going to go just an hour. I'm going to hold you for an extra little bit of time because of a very exciting announcement. And it isn't that Tanya's coming back to the show, but in some ways, I think it's something even better and more exciting. Have a wonderful guest today. This man's reputation precedes him. People who you know very well from my show, Reverend Michael Carter, Barbara DeLong, Mark Eddy, all said you have to have Wallace Wagner on your show. I've read Wallace's book, Within Grasp. Wonderful. That's primarily what we're going to talk about tonight. But I just received his new book, Crossing the Crevice. Now, this is a new edition that's just been released by Dimension Fold Publishing. And I'll be talking about Dimension Fold a lot because they are now also my publisher. Ken Gusward, who's going to be on the show in May, talking about two of his books. He'll be back on for the second time. Ken came to me and said, hey, do you have any books you'd like to publish? And my storytelling book is out. It's doing very well. It's the #1 release on Amazon right now and a number of theater and writing related things. Just so very pleased. Ken, if you're watching tonight, thank you so much. That book was a long journey, and to see it going so well is great. Also, 2 weeks ago, and this is all very surreal, book number 16 was published, Aldemir's Dilemma. This is book 2 of the Amber Dragon Tales, also doing very well. I wanted to say that. Also want to give a shout out. It's our second 200th anniversary. So this weekend, I think I'm going to celebrate just a little. And of course, that means Misty Mountain Mead, our unofficial sponsor, if you will. There's a wonderful ad for Misty Mountain Mead in the back of Aldemir's Dilemma, and I will show you that. There you go. So that's mistymountainmead.com. I'll put that in the chat room here real quick, and then I'm going to roll the opening, and we're going to get right to Wallace and hear about his journey, which is wonderful. Wallace hails from West Virginia, which was my stomping grounds for 7 years. So that's wonderful too. www.mistymountainmead.com. Truly wonderful. Made from honey, so no hangovers, anything like that. Richard the Meadmeister, please tell him Joey sent you, or Angus, or Aldemir. He'll answer and treat you well to any one of those things. I have the orange blossom here, nice dessert one, and another dessert one I decided to show you tonight, blackberry and honey, so a little bit extra honey with the honey. So good evening, everyone. Hi, Lady V. Hey, Ed. Hey, Charles. I got to see Charles today. We crossed paths, which was wonderful. Our scholar in the chat room, Charles Smart, who is going to be on the show sometime, probably late spring, sometime in the summer. He's working on something really, really cool. So it's so cool I get to do this. Thank you all. Thank you for being here. Tanya, of course, and Tanya will have a big announcement. Joe, hey, thanks for joining us from the West Coast where you're out on vacation visiting family. So let's Wallace says hello everyone, but he's going to say that in approximately 2 minutes. So let's roll the opening and then come back and bring this talented man on.
There exists a realm beyond our wildest dreams, a realm beyond reality that the gatekeepers and guardians have always told us consists of nothing but tricks of the eye, weather balloons, swamp gas, sand cranes, fairy tale myths of monsters, crackpot conspiracy theories, and desperate cries for attention.
We know this realm exists, and it's just beyond the horizon. The preset path, the well-worn walkways where the cynics want us to stay.
Instead, give this a listen. Put on your headphones, adjust your volume, close your eyes, and fasten your mental seatbelts, because the twilight-tinged turnoff from reality's alluring highway is looming just ahead.
We're about to leave the plane of the easily explained, the couldn't possibly be's, and the no way I just saw what I saw's, for the spaces and places where everything is possible, and if you stay long enough, even probable. We're about to take a journey into the outer realms.
So, this is where I put on my actor-trained stage voice and read the bio. Wallace was born in the small coal mining town of Logan, West Virginia. I know Logan pretty well. He received his BS degree from WVU in 1981 and did graduate studies at the University of Charleston and Marshall University. Go Herd. I should have worn my Marshall stuff tonight. I didn't realize that. He has gained a unique understanding of the Bible from over 40 years of study and meditation. Good combination. Wallace has a keen eye for looking at the Bible through different lenses, and that is what he's going to talk about tonight for you all. His interest in crafts, aka UFOs, UAPs, etc., the Great Pyramid, crop circles, eschatology, the Bible, and near-death experiences have led him to Egypt, Israel, and Portugal. Wonderful. In 2016, he had his own sighting, which I'm going to let him tell you about that and not give it away. And this experience that he had in 2016 led him to reevaluate many of his conservative Christian teachings. His website is www.otherflocks.net. I'll be sure to put that in the chat room. I just want to read this from our mutual friend, Michael Carter, because he couldn't be here tonight. Wallace Wagner is the rare human being who combines head and heart in his research. I know him to be a man of impeccable integrity and authenticity. In his book, Crossing the Crevice, Wallace invites you and I to remove the scales from our eyes, to soften the hardness of our hearts, and to view Scripture from a 21st century worldview. Nothing has to be lost except the illusion of certitude, and to see and experience our Western scriptures in a fresh, new, and exciting way. Once we acknowledge that we live in a populated universe, our conception of God has to change. I, for one, rejoice at the possibilities. I, for two, rejoice at the possibilities. Please welcome Wallace Wagner from Logan, West Virginia. Good evening, my friend.
Good evening. After that intro, I'm not sure I know how to act, Joey.
Oh,
Thank you.
you are gonna be wonderful. We're gonna make this really easy for you. Tell us about your life growing up in West Virginia prior to 2016 and the path that you were on that then diverged, and take as much time as you need.
Oh, I had a very good childhood, a loving family, of a brother and sister, and a mom and dad who loved each other. And Dad's still alive, by the way. He turns 92 in July.
God
Mom,
bless.
Mom passed about 6 years ago, but it was an excellent childhood. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Grew up Methodist, pretty much, and ended up really being in the Methodist Church here in Virginia. I moved to Virginia in '93
Oh, okay.
and lived here since then. I'm in the small town of Bedford, which is in between Roanoke and Lynchburg.
Oh, nice.
I've also been Southern Baptist for about 7 years. I consider myself an evangelical, and I was teaching Sunday school at the time. I saw the craft. So let's talk about the craft. It was 2016. I was a mailman at the time, and it was here in Bedford County. And I had just made a delivery, and something, I keep using the word something, I don't know whether it was somebody or something, caused me to stop and look up. And I was standing out in the lady's front yard, and I looked up, and there it was, right over my head was what we now call the white tic tac, UFO variety. That is a picture of it. It's about 50 feet by 30 feet was my guesstimation. I'm still struggling over how far away it was. I don't know. That's the honest answer. Maybe 1,500 feet, maybe 1,000 feet. Hard for me to tell. It was just there for 3 seconds and then gone. No windows, no wings, no nacelles, no noise, nothing. A little cloud was beside it. The cloud never moved, and the craft just blinked out. It either went to another dimension, took off so fast that I couldn't see it, or cloaked.
Mhm.
Pick one. But
Yeah.
eventually, it changed me. Uh, I had read von Daniken's Chariots of the Gods back in 72 or 73. It's the first book I read I could not put down. In fact, it took a whole Saturday of me reading it. And a Saturday in high school, you don't want to be stuck in your bedroom reading a book, but that's exactly what happened. But I filed that away. If you're an evangelical Christian, being Southern Baptist and very conservative Methodist, that really doesn't have a whole lot of room in your teachings. I mean, I've had the preacher stand up in front of me and say the earth is 6,000 years old. I mean, that's the general area I'm in now.
Right.
But it did change me. It caused me to back up and looked at a lot of things, remember what I had read from Eric Van Donigen, and start reading some extracurricular material you don't find in the Christian bookstore.
Right.
And it's funny, Joey. Uh, uh, People love to know that they are right. So if you want to study, the Bible or go to Sunday school, you're going to get material from the same source that produces these Sunday school books and Bibles and whatnot. It's the same stuff,
Yeah.
and it's an agenda really that's been put in place since the early church.
Oh, yeah.
And I hate to use the term Kool-Aid because it kind of has a negative connotation to it, but it's applicable. I drank the Kool-Aid too, but anymore, I despise it.
Mhm.
So it's caused me to reevaluate everything.
Right. And before we get into that and sort of unfold this lotus petal, so in 2021, when these videos were leaked, quote unquote, when these videos were released while we were all at home and worried about all kinds of things, interesting timing, were you shocked and amazed? Were you like, this is what I saw? Like, what was your
It was
response?
confirmation.
Yeah.
I just said, that's exactly what I saw. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I saw. And the thoughts in my mind, is it ours? Is it theirs? Did they want me to see it? Was it a mechanical issue? Or just why did that appear over my head for 3 seconds? And what caused me to stop and look up? Did somebody know that this was going to be a life-changing experience for me? And maybe I was going to write about it. I mean, anytime you have a life-changing experience, most people want to share that, and that's exactly what I've done. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm on a journey. I'm on a path now, so
God bless.
that's what
We
I'm
all are
sharing.
together with some
Yes,
good people. So 8 years later, are those questions about why me? Was it on purpose? Was it on action? Is there a lot? Are those questions still open ended for you?
they are. They
Okay.
are to a certain extent. I don't know, was I chosen? What does that even mean now? I call that call that into question. I do know, and I do believe, this is biblical, and I believe it's the truth, that we are all connected, and there's no secrets. Anything in the dark will be made, into the light. Anything hidden will be made known. And you looked at what happened with the Tower of Babel, and instantly everybody's languages change from one language to multiple languages. And then you read Zephaniah, and when the Lord comes back, we're going back to the Lord's language again.
Yeah.
So it makes one wonder, just are we really in a matrix or something? I mean, are we really being watched all the time with watchers and we just can't see them? Was that a watcher who watched me and just
Mhm.
let me know that he or she was there in that craft? Or is it our own secret military, which I know does exist?
Yeah. Yeah. This is why I enjoyed your book and was so motivated to have you as a guest, and hopefully you'll come back on again to talk about crossing the curve because you don't have pat answers. You're leaving it open. The audience knows, and there's no time to get into it. I'll tell you about it another time. But in 2009, Tanya and I had a profound abduction, 2.5 hour missing time experience.
Really?
And that was, 15 years ago now. And the questions are still open ended. Those same
Hmm.
questions are still open ended. And I believe that's the prudent path. So we have a question or an observation / question from Maria Wilson in the chat room. Does life changing have a different definition for each person? What's your thought on that?
It probably does. It
Yeah.
probably does. We each go down our own roads, and it depends on how far you're down that road as to how far you can get jerked back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it might be like a rubber band. I think it probably does. I was so far into being a conservative Christian that I got pulled back and got pulled back hard.
Yeah, well, that's what Charles says in the chat room here. Whether it takes a feather or a boulder, they do get our attention. And my spiritual teachers and mentors always said they nudge you, and then they shove you. And 2009 was certainly a shove. That was certainly a boulder and not a feather. So you have this thing. So you just started going back to the Bible and looking through a different lens. Was the process?
Yeah, well, the Bible's always been my truth. I mean, that's where I've been taught that truth resides. And in the past, I thought I could find every answer to every question in the Bible. And after reading a bunch of books, including Barry Downing, and the list goes on, you can see a bunch of them behind me. I mean, there's probably 200.
Yeah, just like me.
I started looking at the and about, I don't know, 30 of them I haven't read yet, but I've started to realize that things just aren't as they seem. If you're in a typical church Sunday school setting, they never, and never is not a good word to say, they seldom mention early church history or
Yeah.
what the early church fathers thought or how the Bible has changed. I mean, I'm in an area where they hold it up and say every single word is in here is from God, and it's all holy and all given by the divine Holy Spirit. Well, I believed that for a while, but I don't believe that anymore. And believe's not even the word. I know that's not true. But I've gone back and re-examined a lot of things, and including early church history as well as Bible history. And the book is quite honestly not what it's cracked out to be. So uh,
Yeah.
it's got errors in it. It's got changes in it. Um, there's UFOs in it, which
Yeah.
I mean, it's just loaded full of crafts. There's mistranslations. There's issues with transmissions. There's issues with transcriptions. It's been changed at least 4 times. And it's being changed as we speak today. It depends on what country you live in. I mean, Israel's been taken out completely if you live in Denmark, because the reasoning is Israel today is not what the Israel was back then. So it almost seems like if someone who's going to print a Bible has a reason that they consider to be valid, they can just go ahead and change it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's been changed. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
William Tyndale put in the phrase, "Am I my brother's keeper?" which you'll see sometimes in Genesis. That was not in there. I mean, I can go on and on. I mean, the early church fathers even agreed with Origen, one of the early church fathers, that reincarnation exists, and it was an accepted tenet in the Christian community for hundreds of years. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
got weeded out.
Yeah, I come from a Catholic background and I was always very curious. So you do, when you think about the councils where they would get together and say, what is the nature of the Trinity? It was not any divine revelation that counted them. They did it by committee, and they did it
Hmm.
by committee for their own agenda. So I remember getting the book from you, and Reverend Carter had introduced us, and we communicated as I was reading the book. And I remember you said to me, there's this chapter, Joey, 32 pages it is, called God versus God. He said, I'm really curious what you're going to think about it. And to write 32 pages, it took you 2 years. So obviously the stakes were very high for you as a band and as a Christian. So tell us a little bit about that chapter, why it took so long, and what the stakes were for you.
Well, I kind of struggled with it. Uh, uh, you know, all these gods from every country, and we're going around the globe. They all came from the sky, pretty much,
Mhm.
and they all came here not to destroy, but to teach over millennia. And all we know is what happened around the Levant, around the Mediterranean area. That's really basically what the Old Testament was concerned with: the God of Israel, not other gods all around the planet. It was the God of Israel. And the book I'm writing, in the process of writing now, I've got 90% of those listed in the book where it mentions the God of Israel only. But what I did is just let people know how easy it is for a god to become a god. These beings that came from the sky, uh, they were revered because they had magical powers that were, millennia, eons above what we could even imagine. I mean, if I lived 2,000 years ago and struck a match in my hand, I have instant fire. I must be a god. How do you make instant fire? But it I guess, tricked the people. And that's probably not a good word to say, but awed the people, much like
Mhm.
the God of the Old Testament did, coming down on Mount Sinai with the lightnings and the thunders, and creating death and plagues on the Israelites. But all these gods have come here to basically enlighten us. They did not come here to destroy us, or we would not be here now. And
Right.
I put in there what happened in World War II when we dropped, the cargo uh, supplies for our troops in New Guinea and Vanuatu and some places like that. Some of those uh, uh, cargoes, if you will, that were dropped were picked up by the natives who did not even know a war was going on.
Yeah.
And guess what happened? Magic came from the sky.
That's right. The gods
Instant
must be
God. The
crazy.
airplane, the gods
Yeah.
were crazy.
Yep.
The airplane became a god, the John Frum, the cargo cult. And, even today, there's still remnants of that going on because of what happened back then. I mean, they made an airplane out of sticks. That was that instant God. So that's just how easy it is to have someone become your God when they have so much more technology and come from perhaps another sphere, and they're just perceived as gods. Now we're to the point that we've kind of grown up with Star Wars and Star Trek. We realize that this was actually a lot of technology, but at the same time, trust me, I know that there is a being out there that is still watching over us, and that can
Right.
be interpreted however you would wish. But
Right.
I know that for a fact.
Right. 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 So what were some of the things that jumped out from the Bible for you where you said, "Oh, this is," I don't want to use the term smoking gun because, but you know what I'm getting at. The ones where you went, I'm really onto something here and I want to pull more threads.
Mm. Well, the first thing I would say would be in the Hebrew Bible, they only had about 7,000 words. Now, depending on who you believe, we have anywhere from 155,000 to upwards of 200,000 English words today. So what does that tell you?
Right.
A lot of these words, have different connotations, and a lot of different words that we have now could be applied to that one word. One of those words that has stuck out to me is the word spirit. And I'm not going to attempt the Hebrew word, but it's in Crossing the Crevice. But the word spirit can be looked at multiple ways. If you go to Zechariah chapter 6, you'll learn that chariots coming from the mountains, coming from the sky, are called spirits.
Uh-huh.
So you can that's your connection. Spirits can be a craft, and this is played out in multiple places in the Bible. One for sure is John in Revelation 4. A door opened in heaven. How many times have I read that and just, okay, a door opened in heaven. But then the voice comes out and says, come up here. And he went up into the Spirit. And that's phrased like that in every Bible I've seen.
Yeah.
How do you go into the Spirit? You can go up as a spirit, or you may be thinking you're seeing a spirit, but that's not being called up to say, come up here, and you see the door open, and then you're in the Spirit, and then you see the throne, just like Ezekiel saw. By the way, compare John with what John saw with what Ezekiel saw. Very, very, very similar.
Yeah.
And we all know what Ezekiel saw, so I'm not even going there.
Right.
But another place that really stuck out is Elisha, not Elijah, but Elisha, as you know, in 2 Kings, when he was with his servant, and his servant could not see what was all around Elisha. And Elisha prayed for the servant's eyes to be opened. They were opened, and what did he see? Chariots of fire all around, up in the mountains, all around. And chariots of fire, of course, is what picked up Elijah. And how many times in the Bible have I seen in Psalms and just throughout that this God, when he passes by, there's strong winds, there's lightnings, there's thunders, the ground shakes, whirlwinds, the clouds, just on and on. And when this God in the Old Testament, my count says came down 13 times.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's a question for you and your audience. I know I'm not supposed to ask you questions.
Oh no, that's perfectly permissible here.
Wonderful. How do you go down if you're already supposed to be there?
Yeah.
You're taught that God is omnipotent, omnipotent, on and on, everywhere, knows everything, every speck of sand on the beach, every hair on your head. He knows from the beginning to the end. How do you go down if you're already supposed to be there?
That's right. Yeah.
These gods went down, which tells me that they were in crafts. You just don't fall from the sky.
Right.
Crafts were everywhere. Crafts were all through the Old Testament and in the book of Exodus, the crossing of the Red Sea, the pillars, the clouds. Even Reverend Barry Downing, as you can read in Within Grasp here, would tell you that. The first preacher to actually say that there are UFOs in the Bible. Real gentleman, by the way. I really enjoyed that interview.
Nice.
But it's scattered throughout. I mean, you even think about the ascension of Jesus. You think about the Spirit that came down while Jesus was being baptized. Some of the books that aren't in the Bible describe that Spirit that came down exactly as to what Ezekiel saw, pretty much. A very bright cloud with a metallic interior.
Yeah.
That's not in the Bible, but that's in some of the books that did not make it into the Bible. And I can just go on and on, but that's just one of the things. Another thing is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, please. You're good.
Would be stars. I reevaluated the word stars, including the Star of Bethlehem. Stars don't move like the Star of Bethlehem did. Okay? They don't start and stop and start again and stop again. And the same time that was going on, look at the shepherds out in the field. I've been right there to that field. It's called the Field of Ruth. That's where the shepherds were that night. What happened? A spotlight came down and shone around them. It just didn't light up the area. This was a spotlight that came down around them. And then there's the proverbial voice again. Same thing happened with Paul on the Damascus Road. Mm-hmm. Exactly. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, but it gets glossed over lots of times. And then you're sure not going to find it in your typical, Sunday school books. It's just, it doesn't fit the agenda.
Right. Exactly right. So what I want to make sure to accomplish in this hour is this is three books in one to me. And I want to talk about some of the other things. But first, you have broadened out the same way that I did into a transdisciplinary kind of thing, looking at quantum theory, secret technologies, deep underground bases, remote viewing. Did that happen as a step by step? For me, it was just like you shine a light here, and there's these other things. What was your process to broaden out that way?
It went step by step, connecting the dots, and now they're all connected. Everything you just mentioned is real to me.
Me too.
We have underground bases. We've already been out in space. I believe Ben Rich. Remember Ben Rich? He used to run the
Absolutely read
Lockheed.
his book.
Me
Yeah,
too. That was one of the
yeah,
best books I've read, actually.
I
Uh,
love it.
uh, uh, we've already been out there. We've already taken ET home, and this goes back to the 90s. It's just inside the onion with so many layers to get to. It would take something beyond an act of Congress to even know that.
Yeah,
We've been out there, and we have many secrets that our government is holding. The space force that Trump created. That's just a covering. That's just to take some pressure off. We've
yeah,
already been out there. When we're out there now.
yep, yeah. Yeah, and it's quite a I remember it was Nelson, I believe is his name, in January of 2023, the chief administrator at NASA said, "Look, China's going to the moon and they may claim some things." And then I was reading there's a company that's investing in harvesting helium on the moon.
I
Like
just
this is
read.
a
I just
plan and
read that.
process. Yeah, this
Yeah.
morning for me, yeah. It's very odd. It's all very odd. But okay, so let's move on here. So you interview four people, five people in the book.
Well, 5 actually. I
Yep, five.
interviewed your a basic Christian, you might say, last, but
Yeah,
I already kind of knew the answers he would give because I came from the same fold.
yeah,
So
yeah. And that was a good kind of a control group in a way. And
yeah,
you
in
put
a
him
way.
last, which was interesting. How did you go about picking tell us a little bit about each of the four people you interviewed and why you chose these four people.
Well, Dr. Barry Downing, I had to have him, the first preacher that actually acknowledged that UFOs were in the Bible. Okay. And so that was a good starting point. And I was going to go to his house. We were trying to make arrangements, but the time I wrote that, COVID was in full force and I could not get into New York. So we ended up doing it by telephone. But he's the real deal, quite a gentleman. I would have loved to have been in some of his, services. But he and I both agree the biggest challenge and the biggest shift that will have to happen will be with theology, when
Mhm.
disclosure happens.
Right.
I guess that's the way I'll end that. Then Mark Eddy got me connected with Michael Carter, Reverend Michael Carter.
Me too.
Uh, I went to his house for an interview. We had dinner and chatted afterwards. Joey, I've been in international sales for 9 years. Done a lot of traveling overseas. I still have some frequent flyer miles from the 80s and early 90s, by the way, but that's another story. And I've been all up and down Appalachia, from Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, down to Alabama, where all the coal is, up and down the East Coast. Being in sales, you meet a lot of people, talk to a lot of
Yeah.
people. And of course, I've been on some shows too, but I can honestly say Michael Carter is the most real human I have met.
I
Down to
agree.
earth, full of humility, full of love, full of insight. And he is the real deal. He's the one that told me that, after this experience that I had, that I am on a path. And that has proven to be 100% true.
Yeah.
So I will say that. And he is an experiencer, as I'm sure your audience knows, and as an active, minister right now, or I guess I would say preacher right now.
Yeah.
So, and his congregation is okay with with his beliefs. So, kudos to them.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And then Barbara,
What a sweetheart.
absolutely. It's a great word.
And she is talented, extremely talented, has done quite a few things. And her late husband was on some early Ancient Alien programs.
Yeah.
But the thing that resonates with me was her, and I'll let the people read it in the book, was her, what we call a shared death experience, not a near death experience, but a shared death experience, which, I've delved into quite a bit. It's where you're with somebody who is crossing over and you actually become an active part of their crossing over.
Yeah.
For your audience, this is actually a real deal. It's not something that's made up. But she had one of those shared death experiences about 3:00 in the morning with one of her friends who was dying from cancer. To make a long story short, she was there in this dark tunnel, which you always hear about people going through a tunnel when they cross over, and there's always a little light at the end that either's drawing you or you want to go there. But she was there with this person, and this dog came. It was one of her former dogs, and the dog hopped up on them both and started licking them.
Yeah.
And then she saw some family coming, and the friend wanted Barbara to go with her, and Barbara said she couldn't. She had some other things she had to do. And Barbara, to make a long story short, woke up in bed with dog slobber all over her.
Yeah.
And if you know dog slobber, you know dog slobber.
You do.
And that's about as real as it gets.
That amen to that. Yeah, Barbara was on the show about a month ago with her cosmic deck of initiation, and she had been on prior. Yeah, her husband was very accomplished. I read the book that her and Ken did before Roswell.
Yep, me too.
Wonderful resource.
Yep, wonderful.
Yeah,
wonderful.
Now, I don't want to say it was the most contentious, I guess, and of course, being a military man and a doctor, but the interview with Dr. Major Paul Smith was interesting. How did you meet him?
Well, I wanted to do something on remote viewing because I believe in remote viewing.
Me too.
And how we got connected was I actually picked up the phone and called. And a combination of website and texting and whatnot, we made the connection. And I said, I wanted to interview you for my book. Would you be willing? And I found him to be quite gracious, and he was willing. And we had a very, very in-depth discussion that actually went on for a couple of hours.
I believe it, folks. It's there's lots of reasons to read this book. Now I'll get it right. There we go. There's lots of reasons to read this book, but that was really something. And I have worked with remote viewing protocols. Know some people who knew Ingo Swann to varying degrees, and one person who had a visit from Ingo after he passed away. Who was trying to help them develop their skill. Yeah, he was a very powerful guy. So, so that was a particular interest to me. Now, you choose to put, and this was so helpful to me, and I'm excited about Crossing the Crevice, to revisit the Epic of Gilgamesh. You put 4 complete gospels in here: the Gospel of Thomas, the Book of Enoch, the Gospel of Mary, and the Apocalypse of Baruch. Why those 4, and how do they fit into the larger picture of what you were trying to do?
Everybody needs to know the Gospel of Thomas.
I agree.
That's
beautiful.
That's my point blank statement of the evening.
Yeah.
Find it, read it, know it. I want to back up a little bit and say it's a shame that the early church fathers weeded out all the Gnostics and what was considered. And this is one of those books. We were told they were guided by the Holy Spirit. I now question that immensely. I think they really just didn't understand it. and you're trying to build up a new faith in what was called the way, it turned out to be Christianity. You put stuff like the Gospel of Thomas in there, it's going to be over everybody's head. You're not going to draw anybody to you. So I
Right.
really think that the Gnostic stuff was taken out for that very reason.
I agree.
Jesus himself said he taught a 2-tier level. I mean, we got the lower tier, the disciples, and really got an upper tier of teaching, and the Gospel of Thomas brings that out.
Yeah.
I put that in there primarily for reincarnation. It's full of what we call logions or logions, Logion. And number 84 in particular stands out. It reads like this: when you see your true likeness, you rejoice. But when you see your icons, those that were before you existed and that never die and never manifest, what grandeur. Everything you've done will be made known to you, and you'll realize that you've been alive before, and there's no condemnation for those in Christ. It's everything's done loving. You'll be, having a life, I guess, recall of everything you did right and wrong, and that just played into that. So I put, that's why the Gospel of Thomas is in there. Book of Enoch, hard to read. Lets you know there's more than the few angels that us Protestants. You probably know of Raphael already, but how many angels are in the Book of Enoch? Hundreds. But there's so much good information in there. It got taken out because it made reference to the Messiah. The Jews didn't want it in there, but a lot of the early church fathers, including Origen and Irenaeus and Clement of Alexandria, they wanted it in there, but they got overruled. Yeah. But it's wonderful. Enoch, depending on which Enoch you follow in the Bible, there's 2 Enochs. You seldom hear about Cain's Enoch, but this is the Enoch that walked with God and then was not. So he got taken up, and his purpose was to write books, write down everything he saw, and this is basically what that is. And there's several books of Enoch. I just put the main one in there from R.H. Charles. The Gospel of Mary, I just wanted to put something in there about Mary. She's often overlooked. There's not a whole lot of information. A couple good phrases. One that comes to mind is, there really is no sin. Mm-hmm. So, I'm going to let that ride on that. People can read, but it's interesting. The Apocalypse of Baruch. If you're Catholic, you probably know who Baruch is. A lot of us Protestants probably need a little reminder. The scribe of Jeremiah, basically. But that's a book that was taken out, but it plays hand in hand with me, what's in Joel and what's in Revelation, with what's really going to happen in the future. Mm-hmm. That's the way I viewed it, and it's just a confirmation. If you needed some extra confirmation or another way of looking at the circle from another angle, that's why I put that in there, because I really love prophecy. That's one of the tenets of Christianity that was my favorite, was prophecy. The entire time I was Methodist and Baptist. I'm ecumenical now. I go to whatever church I want to go to when I want to go. I've had a couple, I don't want to say bad experiences, but let's just say that I know what I'm being taught now, and some of the things I have issues with, and I'll let that go at that. So
yeah.
Lastly, I had a fella that I just indirectly knew that was involved in church as we speak, another county from here. I made up his name. Of course, I did not use his real name. He knew I wasn't going to use his real name. I just wanted to see what he knew, as far as some of the UFO people, people that had written books in the past. And most of them he did not. He did not believe that God flew, which is, none of this surprises me. He did know a little bit about church history with was it Tetzel? I'm having a brain lapse right now. Anyway, with the church, with all the corruption in the past, and how you could buy your salvation, that kind of thing. And if you paid the church just a little bit more money, well, I'll tell you what, we can forgive your sins in the future too.
Yes.
That's where the church really ended up, and it was one
Yeah.
of the issues, which caused the Protestant Reformation. And anyway, I know that you're Catholic. I want to make one more comment, if I could.
Yeah.
When we, and I say we, Protestant, and I'm not even sure I call myself Protestant now. I'm just a spiritual entity here on earth like everybody else. When we took those 7 books out, we took out truth that had been in existence for at least 1,200 years. And I'm talking about purgatory.
Yeah.
I'm talking about praying for the dead. That was an accepted practice in the church up until the Protestant Reformation. We took those books out that contain that information, and we think it's taboo now to pray for the dead. So, that's just one issue or one place where the truth has been changed, depending on who's in power.
Right. That's exactly right. So, remind me, which came first, Within Grasp or Crossing the Crevice?
Crossing the Crevice came first. That's the book I wrote several years after I saw the craft. And Within Grasp was a follow-up book. It's just places I've been as I go down this path. That's where I'm progressing. It was such a life-changing event for me. I just want to be like people in the past that did, geoglyphs and petroglyphs. When something happened and was a paradigm shift in your life, you want to make note of it and you want to share that with people. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do.
No, you're doing a wonderful job. So you mentioned a book that you're writing now. What can you tell us about? What can you tell us about that?
Well, I can tell you that I had one whole chapter I was going to do, which was going to be pretty much the essence of the book. Without going into a lot of detail, that chapter has now been expunged. It's not going to be in the book.
So the chapter that got you on the journey served its purpose and fell off.
Let's just say I was forced into removing it.
Oh.
Let's say I was spiritually forced into removing it.
Yeah.
That's as far as I want to go.
Yeah, no, and that's fine. The only thing that I'm going to say is it's amazing how many folks I have on the show that something else is driving the writing process to a very large degree.
I even had Marcion's Bibles here and the antithesis and all this. I was going to make some astute observations between the God of the Old Testament and the God of the New Testament.
Yeah.
And if you're ordained, which that's something that I guess that Barbara and I share without technically being preachers, you're held to a higher standard. Let me just put it that way. Just like teachers are held to a higher standard.
Right.
And I need to just be careful on what I say. I'm going to let that ride.
Yeah, and that's prudent. As a show host, as an author, we have a responsibility. We can't just say things for our convenience or half-cocked. So now that we know what's kind of a little bit or know enough, what's not in the book, what remains? What is the core of the book?
Ego for one thing. I'm as you may know, I'm a member of the Theosophical Society, and that encompasses all religions.
Yeah.
We're all here as brothers and sisters, whether we acknowledge it or not. And we all want to seek the truth. We want to gain insights. But one of the things that really stuck out to me, which is in the Gnostic Gospels, and if you read between the lines a lot, it's in the Bible as well, is to go inside.
Mm.
And I mean that by going inside yourself.
Yes.
Now, what do I mean when I say that? I mean, it takes a lot of patience, practice, prayer, and above all, meditation to know who you really are instead of who you think that you are.
Yeah.
That's a mouthful and that's a heavy statement, I know. But once you start focusing in on realizing who you really are, you can start to control the ego. The ego is in everybody. It wants to be heard. It wants to be boss. It makes you want to buy things when you don't need things. It switches want with need. And then you have these things and you want more things because you think the more things will make you happier if you have the more things. And all these things do is take time away from what you should really be doing. All these things do are an interference with you and a connection with the heavenlies. And I'm going to say the heavenlies. I'm choosing that carefully.
Yeah.
And we all have a connection. And I really believe the more that you know that yourself and develop your inner self, the more consciousness one can achieve. The more consciousness one can achieve, and I'm connecting the dots, the closer you come to what is generally called perfection, to where one day you won't need any more vessels to incarnate in.
Yeah.
So the vessel is a shell. In my world now, we've had many vessels. Unless you're taken up instantly now, you'll probably have some more vessels later. The soul inside of you, it yearns for knowledge. It
Yeah,
wants to
it
be
does.
like the creator, whoever you think your creator is. You may think it is the God of the Old Testament, or you may think it is a spirit, light, and love as God is described in the New Testament. I have a hard time connecting those two, but I know that there is a connection with an entity that I can't see right now. And that's as plain as I can state that.
Yeah.
And that has been reinforced recently. So I'm careful on what I am writing in my third and final book called The Nucleus. It
Ooh.
is where I'm at and probably will be for the remainder of this lifetime.
That's wonderful. We talk about Bible interpretation and all that, but let's go back to the Quran. Um,
Hmm.
People should know that jihad is not this outer war between apostates and the faithful. It is that inner battle within the soul. That is a much different picture. If you are busy engaging here, you don't have any time to go out there and try to conquer or even proselytize or convert. You don't have time. And so I'm with you. And it's Thomas that says, what you bring forth will save you, and what you don't bring forth will basically end you. Well, you need to
We
go
make our
in to
own
get that.
salvation. We make our
That's
own
right.
salvation. Let's just face it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
You're
think,
not going to die.
no, no, and we know this. You and I know that. Many of people in the chat room know this. I would like to end with this question, which
Sure.
is, so you're interested in disclosure, following it. Obviously, I am. There were some setbacks, when they finally came in, and we kind of knew those were coming. But what I want to ask you about to end our time together before you can tell people where to get your things and all that good stuff. Um, Going all the way back to the 1970s, but really, let's say 1950s, because of Donald Kehoe's work, we know this. The Air Force, then in the 1970s, it was Rand Corporation. Then I guess Bigelow is the guy who carries it forward now, Robert Bigelow, that if full disclosure happened, society would collapse, religions would go up in flames and be completely done. what is your learned position on that statement?
You're really indirectly referring to the Brookings report.
Yes, yes,
We
yeah,
can't handle the truth.
yeah,
That's the bottom line.
yeah.
And I would say today that that's probably true, but
Okay,
there's a but.
okay.
We are heading in the right direction. I used to think that things are going to get so bad here that it'd be our government that would finally make the disclosure. Now I think it will be them.
Me too. Me
Uh, I,
too.
I think they will know when we are ready, and
Yeah.
they themselves will make it known that we are not alone.
And do
I
you?
don't think we're there yet, though.
No.
That's one of the reasons I'm really trying to share, you know, what I'm finding, and I'm trying to use the Bible as the common foundation from the flock that I left to where I'm at, now, trying to, I guess, get people to wake up and see that if you keep going to the same watering hole, drinking the same water, that's all you're going to get. That there's other flavors out there, and you need to look at things from a different angle to expand your universe, expand your mind, and realize that technically we don't even know who killed Goliath. It's a mishmash if you continue reading. Just
Oh
just
yeah.
how many animals went on the ark? Was it 2 by 2 or was it 2 by 7? I mean, just on and on. And there's if I could just get people to realize that things are really different, then that may create a little bit of a crevice or a little bit of an opening to where they might go out to beyond the Christian bookstore and buy some books maybe on UFOs or other dimensions or shared death experiences or things of that nature. I mean, I've even delved into the crop circles.
Hmm.
A lot of people just want to file this stuff in their brains and not think about it. And then the government's guilty for having us do that. With UFOs, there's nothing to worry about. Same thing with crop circles. As soon as Doug Bauer and Dave Corley came out and said they were the ones that created it and ended up on the front newspapers, that topic went away.
Yeah.
But the phenomenon never went away, and it's
No,
still
and
being
it's
studied by those today, and it's a legitimate unknown.
yeah. And it is because the way that wheat bends and the way the moisture evaporates out of it, that is not done with ropes and boards. It's not.
Oh, no. Here, I'm
No.
going to show you real fast a picture I put in crossing the crevice.
Yeah.
Let's see if you can see it.
Yeah.
That
Just
is
hold
a
it a
crop
little
circle.
closer.
That is a crop circle that appeared overnight,
Yeah.
740 feet wide,
Yeah.
perfect circles with no lines between the circles. You tell me people were out there with minor lights making that in England, where their population is 8 times denser than it is in the United States, and you're out there with minor lights and cars parked and people walking out and back and forth and all the planning for this and everybody out there trying to make it before daylight. Come on, people.
No
It
way.
doesn't happen.
No.
No, it takes a few
No.
seconds to make a crop circle. Let that sink in. And
Yeah.
there's often orbs and there's residual effects, magnetic and time.
Yeah. Profound. I know people personally who have gone in and had missing time and been transported and had revelations and all kinds of things. Well, our hour went very quickly, sir.
It sure did. I didn't even
It
get to
did.
ask you, did you
Oh,
get checked for an implant?
oh, not me myself, but Tanya deals with that. She wakes up with fingerprints and bruises and various things that register on Gauss meters. And yeah,
Oh
she's
boy.
had some very profound.
Okay.
If I'm with her, she tends to be okay. But when she travels, invariably strange things happen. People say, like, did you have the TV on in the middle of the night? Because I heard a man's voice and there was light pouring out of your bedroom. And she
Hmm.
says, no, I was asleep all night.
Hmm.
So yeah, so that's crazy. So where can folks get your books and
Well,
if they want to reach out to
they're
you?
on Amazon. They're on
Awesome.
Amazon, and there's
Okay.
second edition for both of them. And you
Yeah.
can read about me and what's in both of the books on my website, which is www.otherflocks.net. otherflocks.net will take you right to it.
Okay.
And should you decide, just you can type in my name or Crossing the Crevice or Within Grasp, either one. They're both on Amazon.
Awesome. And it came in. Okay. I'm getting some kind of weird error messages. So we're gonna, who knows? Things are starting to happen a little weird. But
otherflocks.net is plural. Otherflocks.net.
Yep, it's in there. I put it in the chat room, and then the chat room completely froze up. So, folks, that's never happened before. So, sir, I'm going to release you. Thank you so much. Let's please keep in contact. And of course, I start reading this weekend, and I'll write my review and all.
All right. Thank you, Joey. I appreciate it. Congratulations on your #1 book.
Thank you, and gratitude to our mutual publisher, Ken Gusward. So I hope you'll come on again.
Be happy to. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed it.
I'll be in touch. Thank you,
Peace.
sir. All right, now, folks, I hope you're all still with me because the chat room just went kablooey. I got all kinds of error messages here that have never happened before, but I promise you a surprise having to do with Miss Tanya, and here it is. She's had a life change, and she is offering some of the services that she hasn't offered in some time here. I guess maybe it was just the Into the Outer Realms. I don't know. Maybe they finally shut Into the Outer Realms down or something. Who knows? I've been on in Facebook warning for months for that. But anyhow, Tanya put this little commercial together. She's offering the services that so many of you know and love. So I'm going to run this 30-second spot, and please. And for ERT Radio, who listens on Wednesday night, it's Tanya Medea at gmail.com. TonyMadia.gmail.com. But let me hear roll. So there you go. There it is. Ends kind of abruptly. But anyway, thank you all. Wallace is just amazing. I'm very excited he's going to be on the show again. So I'm going to get that reading of his material so that I can go ahead and do that. So everybody have a wonderful night. So Monday, I believe, is St. Patrick's Day. So to all our Irish friends out there, happy St. Patrick's Day. And the 19th is my name day. It's St. Joseph's Day, which is the real big holiday for me. So thank you all. Not sure what happened in the chat room. I guess some people are getting through in some ways. It looks like my main famous Facebook page, but possibly the YouTube. Anyway, have a great night. I'll see you next week. Craig is being very coy, so I have no idea what we're working on, what we're presenting to you next Thursday night for Sinister Mysteries number 33, but we will be well prepared. I'm going to ask him for the secret code on Sunday so I can begin my my research journey. Thank you all. 200 episodes. We're going to keep going. In some ways, we're just getting started. I'm learning all the time, but thank you all and talk to you soon. So it seems, just the Into the Outer Realms chat room stopped functioning. So thank you all. Be well. Take care. Charles, it was so good to see you today. Was that something when Wallace put his hands and said, "This is just a vessel"? It's exactly what you did. So we'll take heed, folks. Just remember, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. So be well. I'm glad to be having this experience with you.